Hello, I'm Dr. Elisa Zhang, and I'm a physician life coach. Today, I'd like to talk about the FIRE movement, FIRE, Financial Independent Retire Early. This has become really popular recently. And during COVID, we've had something that we call the Great Quit, partially motivated by people not wanting to tolerate work situations that they would previously tolerate. People are getting to the point where they want to kind of live life and have realized how much more precious life is. With the FIRE movement, the idea is to live frugally, invest wisely, and therefore you can get to the point where you become financially independent well before the age of 65 so that you don't have to keep working your day job. Now, some people love their day job and don't necessarily want to retire from it early, but I think getting to financial independence is a worthwhile goal because it makes it so that you're not tied to a paycheck and that you don't have to work. The best thing is if you can work because you want to work, and it puts you in a stronger position for negotiation so that you can work on your own terms. And this is why I am a big proponent of physicians achieving financial independence so that they can work on their own terms. We know that as physicians that we're being pressed kind of from both sides. Insurance companies are starting to reimburse less and less. Medicine is becoming more corporatized. There is less private practice and less physicians working for other physicians or physicians working for themselves. A lot of times we're in these big systems where we have a lot less autonomy. We are put in a situation where it's demanded that we get certain results, but we don't really have control over that process. And I think by becoming financially independent, then we do have more choice in what we do in the workplace, because if anything, we can always walk away. We don't actually need that paycheck anymore. So how do you go about becoming financially independent? Well, you want to make your money work for you so that you have enough money that it's able to bring you cash flow for you to live on. And so there are different ways to invest and different ways to calculate getting to financial independence. If you're investing in traditional stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, then what you can look at is how much you have invested, and a safe withdrawal rate is somewhere between 3 to 4%. Part of that depends on the risk of sequence of returns, which is a little bit more complicated. I'm not going to get into all that here. But basically, the idea is that you can very safely live off 3% of your portfolio. So if you've got $1 million in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, then you can have $30,000 a year that you pull out and live on, and that should last for the rest of your life. The 4% was calculated to last 30 years, to have a very safe margin to last 30 years. But now with the advances of how long people live, and if you're actually looking at retiring early, then 30 years is not necessarily long enough. So you may want to have a safer buffer of withdrawing 3.5% or 3%. And the other way to look at financial independence is when you can create enough just cash flow from your investments. So some investments like real estate can actually give cash flow. So it's not just about the net worth or number or amount of money invested. It's about how much money those investments are spilling out. So, if you've got real estate, if you've got so this is where it doesn't matter how much the real estate is valued at. It just depends on how much the cash flow is. Because you can have a lot of real estate, but if it has negative cash flow, that's not going to actually support your living. So an example is if you've got rental property and after you've got tenants paying you the rent, and the rent covers the mortgage, the maintenance, and everything else. And after paying for all expenses, you still have a few $100s a month from each rental property. Then depending on how much you need to live on, then once that cash flow meets your own personal expenses, then you can reach financial independence. So you can see there are multiple ways to get to financial independence, depending on how you're investing with stocks, bonds, or with real estate, or if you're investing in other type investments like debt investments. So if you are basically like the mortgage, like the bank, and you loan money to someone and they pay you interest, then that's also a way to get cash flow off your assets. So if you're interested in trying to calculate how much money you need to be financially independent by having a portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, I do have a freebie on my website. Go to growyourwealthymindset.com and you can look for that financial independence workbook. And in that workbook, you can actually calculate out how much you need to be financially independent. In there, I actually have different levels of financial independence. So there's the level where you would basically be able to cover your very basic expenses, but may not have extra money for things like travel or other extravagances. Then there's the FIRE where you actually meet your current expenses. And there's something else that people will call fat FIRE, which allows them to get to the point where not only can they just live the life that they've been living, but they can plan for much more extravagant lifestyle. So if you want to spend the rest of your time traveling in luxury, then you may actually need more money than the amount of money that you're living on now. And so to calculate that out, you would actually find your what's called fat FIRE number. I hope that financial workbook is helpful for you. I love some comments on it. If these videos are helpful for you, please hit subscribe. And if you would like to work with me on figuring out how you can become financially independent, please, again, go to that website, growyourwealthymindset.com, and you can sign up for a consultation call with me. I love to talk to you. Thank you.